Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Banner 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Pekka, Jake King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Shut your ass up,
Your daddy's always happening here.
Welcome back to Still Poddable. This is the Poddable postgame show. I am Sam Jam Packard, joined by producer extraordinaire Sean Gauthier. And we're coming to you after a disappointing loss by the Boston Celtics. They lose to the Oklahoma City Thunder. What was it? 105-92. And this is it's much like the film Garfield 2, A Tale of Two Kitties. But instead of kitties, it was halves. And it was a tale of two halves. The first half, the Celtics, I thought, played some of the best basketball they've played in a while. They win that half 65-55. They really dominate points in the paint. They didn't have their three-point shooting throughout their entire game, but I thought in the first half, their offensive execution, especially behind Jaylen Brown, and I thought they did a good job of getting the ball to Kristaps Porzingis in the first half. They just did a solid job of getting inside the paint. They were very good rebounding the ball and getting kind of second chance points. Then they did not play well in the second half, but I have to give credit to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are the best defense in the league. They have just did a fantastic job of creating turnovers in the second half. Making things very physical. It felt like anytime the Celtics were driving, it was difficult. And the Celtics, I think, had some moments of decent offense and generated some shots, but then they just didn't knock down threes or basically any shots in the second half. Just an ugly performance. 15 points in the third quarter, followed up by 12 points in the fourth quarter. And so, it was not necessarily a lack of effort on the Celtics' part. I thought they were really locked in. The Thunder just played fantastic defense. Celtics 3 of 18 in the final frame. Only Jason Tatum and Al Horford hitting shots. It was just kind of an ugly second half. Sean, your first thoughts on that fun second half?
I put this in the Patreon chat. Shout out to chat always. But I've been drinking since watching the Liverpool game at around 11:30 Eastern. I was not in the headspace to have the end of that game have so many annoying calls. Which, to be clear, I don't believe that the bad refereeing at the end of that game was the reason the Celtics lost. OKC is a very good basketball team that played really good basketball on the stretch. It just made it an unenjoyable loss. Whereas, like, I don't mind watching a team
enjoyable losses, you know?
Yeah, it's like if the other team's just playing real good at the end of the game, you're like, well, that sucks. But and I also just have no beef with OKC because they just haven't like mattered to me for most of my watching basketball. So I'm like, yeah, this team's young and they're good and they're fun to watch. But just like, the refereeing took me out of the game, and now I'm furious. And now I'm mad at everyone, and so I'm in a terrible headspace.
That's fair. Hopefully, we can bring you back to a better headspace. I know a person who might bring you back that headspace. Before I bring on the legend Josh B, I do want to make the point that OKC plays extremely physical defense. Just fouls galore. I think the Celtics did a good job of kind of exploiting that in the first half. They got to the foul line. They got to the foul line a decent amount. That's the only reason they were kind of managed to stay in this game. Only 10 times in the second half. They did a much better job in the first half. I do think their refs swallowed the whistle a bit down the stretch and just like kind of let the teams get more physical. I think that absolutely favored Oklahoma City, who just feels like they could kind of foul on every single play. And there's some definitely drives late where it felt like Jaylen got fouled, and I think Tatum got fouled. But I agree with you. It's like that's the Celtics also just missed all of their kind of open opportunities there. And so the thing that makes you angry is that, like, all right, we're playing a physical game. If Hartenstein dunks on Derek White and then like leg clamps him, and then you call a foul on Derek White for that, that feels like, dare I say it, poppycock. It's poppycock to the 1000th degree, and it was unnecessary. And so it's just like, call it both ways. Just if it's going to be a physical game, let it be a physical game. But don't do that. And then like some touchy illegal screens. It was annoying, but you got to give the Thunder credit. They're the best defense in the league. They're extremely physical. They're playing without Chet and Alex Caruso. And that SGA fellow, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Here's Josh, but you tell me I'm all wrong.
A little bit. You're not completely, but a little bit. I'm going to try and spring some hope for some Celtics fans, and I'm going to do a little bit of some motivational speaking. I've got the stats of the game up right now, but the only stat that really matters, and I don't have the exact, I can get the exact number, and maybe I will by the time I'm done with this rant, but we shot, to be clear, 9 for 46 from three-point land for 19.6%. That's Toronto Raptor, Houston Rocket-esque. That's really, really, really bad. And I've been watching the Celtics now for 3 years, pretty much every game coming on the show. I don't ever remember talking to you where we shot the three this bad in my life, wins and losses. I don't remember them ever shooting this bad. The real issue, if you're looking for people to blame, if you're looking to like pin this on individuals, Peyton Pritchard really needs to focus up. The thing that's just not being talked about because we just, for whatever reason, are sort of giving him a pass after his all-star campaign for the first half is some of these passes that Peyton Pritchard is throwing. I know they're not showing up on the box score. You don't see
zero turnovers for Peyton Pritchard.
Right. I know it doesn't show up on the box score because it's like, oh no, that turned out to be a steal. That's nonsense. Some of these over the like head passes where they're just sort of floated and left sort of up there in the air. I get it that like the other team intercepted it, so it goes down as a steal. Peyton Pritchard really needs to tighten up. Kristaps Porzingis just throwing the ball randomly across the ground for a 6'10" Jason Tatum. This passing game, whatever was going on, just it wasn't there tonight, and we got away from that. And then in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden it's JB and Jason Tatum trying to do iso ball, and we've learned this. Like, we learned this lesson 3 years ago. We learned this lesson against the Miami Heat back, when Jimmy Butler was a good player and was, happy. We learned that isolation basketball doesn't work for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And what unlocks it is the passing, is the whipping the ball around. And we saw that. We saw that against the Houston Rockets just a moment ago. We saw that against the Minnesota Timberwolves just a little bit ago. When we whip the ball around, we get people like Al Horford open threes, and then we offensive rebound. Our offensive rebounding actually wasn't that bad, especially in the first half. Now in the second half, it kind of cleaned up. But like,
Josh, I thought you were supposed to bring some hope to this appearance on the pod.
Well, I am, right? Okay. And the way to get the hope is to realize that this Celtics team, so a couple of things. So I'll bring the hope here. We were out rebounding them all the way through this game until the very, very end when we just sort of let our foot off the gas. We were limiting them when the game was still tight, when the game was in the balance. We were limiting them to one shot, and we just couldn't hit a three. Like, dude, that happens. That happens in the NBA. We always talk about a make or miss league. Well, tonight was our night to miss, right? And while we're on the subject, the Oklahoma City Thunder scored 105 points. Right? Or as I like to think of it, less than the Minnesota Timberwolves. However you want to look at it, however you want to like visualize it, we held them to 105. This is the best team in the Western Conference. One of the few teams that we actually thought was going to be a championship contender prior to the season starting, right? And so what did you see? You saw that when things are tight, that when you're actually facing a good team, you can't get away from your fundamentals. You can't get away from the whipping the ball around. You can't get away from the passing. You can't get away from passing up a good shot for an excellent shot. Welcome to learning. Welcome to class. Congratulations, you're there. to everybody who's worried about Drew Holiday and his minus 11 for 2 points, Drew Holiday didn't do Drew Holiday things at, 3:30 in the afternoon start time on the West Coast, where it's 2 hours behind, right? So at 1:30 in the afternoon, Drew Holiday was not Drew Holiday on a random Sunday basketball game. This is still the best team in the NBA. They are still the champions, and they are still way up on the New York Knicks, right? For the number 2 seed. And what does that mean in reality? That means that if everything breaks the way that everything is looking to break right now, we won't face the Cleveland Cavaliers until the Eastern Conference Finals, which is so different than what we were looking at just a little bit ago. Oh boy. Like, none of this was just a bad game. We have started this road trip 2-1. I think our defense was playing phenomenal. We got our hands on almost all of the OKC passes. Our defense was absolutely there, and you learned a lesson, and that lesson is that you can't be stagnant, that you can't turn into isolation basketball. And turns out, Joe Mazzulla, that resting 4 of our starters against the second best team in the NBA by record is a bad idea for the entire third quarter. Turns out that that's like a bad thing. So everybody looks inside. Everybody reflects on the Kaizen podcast that you put out after New Year's, right? And then we improve and we grow and we take that growth and we stuff it down Joker's throat in this upcoming game. And then, just as a reminder to everybody else, we face the Mike Brownless Sacramento Kings in our next game. That's how this goes. Everybody settle down. We are still the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference, and we are still the NBA champions with a growing lead over the New York Knicks. Now, I usually end these things with a question, so I am going to ask a question. With a game like this, with all of the defensive intensity, I listened to your entire opening, right? I listened to everything you said. Defensive intensity on Boston side, defensive intensity on OKC side, the referees, awful calls. Where, if you know the game is going to be this way, if you know by the third quarter the game is going to be this way, where in the hell is Jordan Walsh? Our best and most physical and most active defender. If it's going to be this bad, if it's going to be this many stupid calls, bring Jordan Walsh into it. Cause some chaos. Josh, be out.
I did not see that coming. I did not.
That is not where I was expecting that either.
That was a tour de force. Wow. On the bench, Jordan Walsh was on the bench. Let's just first address the question where he should have been. This was an intense game where you're going to play only your top 9. Peyton Pritchard barely played, and he's been phenomenal this whole year. I guess we're blaming Peyton Pritchard for his bad passing, though he had 0 turnovers. There's some Josh B's criticism is that the Celtics got away from ball movement, but the thing that the Thunder do very, very well is they defend every single person straight up, and they don't leave the 3-point line, and so they don't put 2 on the ball. You have to win individual matchups, and it's something the Celtics did, I thought, a solid job of in the first half, especially Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown, I think, had 19 of his 21 points in the first half. Oh, no, 21 of his 21 points in his, so he did not score any first half basket or any second half baskets. And I thought they got a really good job of getting the ball Kristaps Porzingis against smaller guys. And then in the second half, I don't think Jordan Walsh would have been the answer. I agreed that the 3-point shooting was not ideal because they generated some open looks. I thought Derek White, after kind of bouncing back in his couple of games, he was only 2 for 11 from the 3 tonight. Tatum was 2 for 6. The Celtics, they ended up with 46 threes, but it didn't feel like they were taking the outrageous amount they were because that's how they were being defended, and they were trying to get into the paint. I just thought that the Oklahoma City Thunder did a fantastic job, and this is what they are very good at. Analytically, they're the best net rating or defensive rating in the league. They're the first best team in the league in terms of generating turnovers. They turned the Celtics over, and they turned 16 Celtics turnovers into 22 points. The Celtics themselves did a good job of turning the Thunder over. They just did not necessarily convert on those, turning it only into 11 points. And so the Celtics did an amazing job of winning the battle in the paint in the first half. They had 34 points in the paint, But then for the game, they had 40 points in the paint, so only 6. They only scored 27 points in the second half. Like, this was just a dominant defensive performance from the Thunder. Am I like largely concerned about the Boston Celtics? No. They played this best team or second best team in the league, and it was a hard-fought game in which the Thunder kind of pulled away at the end. It was just a 1:30 game, a random 1:30 game on a Sunday, to quote Josh B. He said it was on the West Coast, and then it was 2 hours behind. The geography there was a little bit suspect, but fun basketball game. Fun Sunday afternoon until the losing part, but it's a test. March 12th, folks, circle on your calendars. OKC Thunder come to Boston. It's going to be another fun game, and this is why we play basketball, folks. It's been a fun West Coast trip so far. I felt like the Celtics have rose to the occasion and played 3 very good games. They just didn't necessarily execute down the stretch or in the second half of this one.
Packard, I'm going to highlight here from Michael Dwyer. Good point on 3 of 24 from 3. Obviously, there was some good defense being played by OKC, but like, how much of that? A decent number of those from the eye test and me not going back to look at absolutely anything because this is a live post-game show. I've got no idea, but a lot of them seem like they were just open ones that we were missing. Like, to a certain extent, I kind of agree with Josh B. Like, it's for the Celtics anyway, this is a random game in the middle of a road trip. Like he said, at 1:00 on a Sunday, right? Like, or whatever time it actually is in OKC. I don't know what time zone they're in, but it's like they missed a bunch of threes. Like, I don't think the Celtics are gonna be a 9 of 46 team in most games, right? And like, I mean, it's not like OKC absolutely shot the lights out. I mean, they were a lot better than us. I mean, 42. They didn't take nearly as many, but like
the fucking Dort threes at the end made me so angry. Anytime brutal. Dort makes a shot. Because earlier in the game, I have in my notes, like, any Dort shot is a win for the Celtics just because his form looks kind of ugly. And then for him to knock down like 2 daggers in a row back to back was incredibly frustrating. I thought the Celtics were doing some of that offense where they let like Aria in chat did a good job of pointing out like the Thunder did a good job of like relocating, and the Celtics maybe helped a little bit and they knocked down some threes from Casey Wallace or Andrew Wiggins. Hate the whole Wiggins family, by the way. Just not for me. But they let Lou Dort shoot a bunch of shots, and I was like, fine with that. That feels like a win. They were really paying like a lot of attention to SGA. SGA still ended up with 33 points, but like, I'll push back on one thing. This is not just a random game in January. Like the Celtics were getting up for this game. The Thunder were getting up for this game. Like, this was a game, and they brought it intensity-wise. I agree with you, make or miss league. Like, the shooting in the second half, I don't think is necessarily would repeat itself. That being said, and they didn't make like threes in the first half, really. But they did a good job of finding other ways to score the basketball. That cannot be said for the second half. They only made 8 shots in the second half, and they made 8 free throws. And so if it wasn't for like a random Lou Dort flopping technical and then like that random Kristaps thing, it could have been a whole lot worse. And so not concerned, just frustrated and disappointed. But they still have a chance to go into Denver on Tuesday night and go out of this road trip 3-1. I think we said on the kind of the preview pod that a 3-1 road trip like this is like definitely a success after the struggles of the late December and the back-to-back win in Minnesota and the Rockets and like a solid but not great performance. Like, the effort was there. It's like this team can turn it on and play competitive basketball against the best teams in the league. Is there concern? Not at all. Is there frustration? Abso-fucking-lutely, because winning is so much more fun than losing. And I was looking at the my timeline right like before the game, and all these Patriots fans were just yelling and going so upset because they messed up the tank. And I wanted to be righteous and be like, I'm the positive sports fan who's not going to yell about my sports team. And here I am yelling about my sports team. Just yelling like Janet. It's a reference to the Fed,
I make that joke all the time. I'm so happy to hear That's a staple in my household.
Really? You were making numerous Janet Yellen?
Truly, yes. We make Janet Yellen jokes here all the time. Janet Yellen, and if anyone says they're dancing, we asked if they're Ted dancing. Those are the two that we go for. So, oh wow, well done.
Dancing and yelling, yelling and dancing. That was immediate junk.
Yeah.
Basketball observations from this game before we get to ridiculous. I'm just going to look over my notes here, but feel free to mention.
Yeah, I think only one, right? Is like you look at like an issue the Celtics have had all season is steals. They haven't been that great at getting them. And like 6 to 11 in steals, but also 3 to 13 in fast break points. Like that's the margin of victory right there, right? So it's like some of that's just going to be like, Celtics got to get better at disrupting in those moments. Like they had a few really good steals off the passes. The one where Jason Tatum just like fell into the stands. That was a good steal until he fell into the stands. But like, we need more of that, more of just like that disruptive stuff. Because obviously, like they do a good job of disrupting shots, but like not letting the other team get a shot is also just as good.
Yeah, that is correct.
Maybe better.
No shot at all is ideal. Jason Tatum going flying into the stands, landing on the basketball, and then just kind of writhing in pain, face down, and refusing to get up. I would say that was a real low moment for the game. Wouldn't say that's a fun time had by anyone. Glad that he got up. He's a hockey player. Curious if that affected his shot maybe down the stretch. Who knows? We'll find out after the game. We're not going to have this conversation now. And Josh B kind of mentioned it a little bit. There is a conversation to be had about Drew Holiday at some point, because Drew Holiday this season is not the Drew Holiday of yesteryear. And the Drew Holiday contract extension could be a yikes, could be a big, scary thing. And the fact that the Thunder were targeting him at the end of the game is not something you want to see. Now, I don't think Drew Holiday is great at defending the fastest guards in the league, like the super quick guys. He's never really been good at that. If you go back to the game last year against OKC, one of the keys was Tatum defending SJ down a stretch. SJ doesn't like the length. Drew is still, super physical. I said we were having the Drew conversation, but we're going to dabble into the Drew conversation. But he's physical. He was matched up on Hartenstein to start this game. Like, he's super versatile. He can do a bunch of things, but his shooting has not really been there. And he's just something to keep an eye on. Peyton Pritchard's been finishing games over him. He's going to make me eat these words in the playoffs when he comes up with like 3 ridiculous steals and does a bounce pass through the legs off the backboard into an alley-oop. And I'll happily do so. But this far into the season, there's a slight notice me noticing Drew Holiday is all I asked right now. That's all I pretty much I got. There was some very cool plays we should highlight. In the first half, Jaylen Brown had a fadeaway 3 in the corner that rocked. There were some great moments of transition basketball where one, it was like Hauser gets the steal, passes it up to the rolling cornet to Horford. Hauser comes and knocks down the 3. Then he had another steal to Tatum to the Kristaps for the dunk. So the cool plays were cool. I got to say that. I was a fan of the cool plays. The first half, reaping, left and right. All of us reaping. Second half, big time sow fest. It was us sowing all over the place. And that's how it happens. Some people say it's not like that, but it do be like that. I messed that quote up. I'm going to press the button when we get I already mentioned I hate the Wiggins family, but it's worth mentioning twice. Now I just remembered, I think his father just passed away, and I take it all back. So I apologize for that. That is, no one would have mentioned it. That's me holding myself accountable. No one was going to, you weren't going to bring it up, but we stand for accountability in this podcast. They mentioned all the Thunder connections to like the Boston and New England area. And it's like Sam Presti went to Emerson, Mark Daignault's from I don't know, let's go with Woburn, some other guys from Leominster. But then they said some guys, they were like listed all the hometowns. I didn't catch who the guys was, but they listed his hometown as Alston. And I just find, like, has anyone ever said that, like, I'm from Alston, especially to a New England based audience? Like, that's oddly specific. As a guy who's lived in all over Alston, I don't think I would ever, if anyone ever asked me what my hometown was, and I'll get it, I didn't grow up in Alston. Shout out to Watertown, but it's just weird to say you're from Alston, Rat City. And I just found that to be a bizarre thing on the broadcast, unless he's got a lot of Alston pride. I've never met anyone who grew up in Alston with a lot of Alston pride. I meet people with Alston pride who are like dirtbags who go to the Silhouette and smoke clove cigarettes. Like, that's the Alston pride that I've encountered in my life.
Yeah, I can't think until I look this up and figure out who the hell in OKC has some connection to Alston, Massachusetts. That's incredible. One of my best friends is from Alston. Shout out Danny Gibbons. But he does not have a lot of Alston pride. He moved to Brighton pretty quickly as a kid, and then he's got a decent amount of Brighton pride. So, but yeah, Alston.
So that's opposite. I grew up hating Brighton. I'm an Alston over Brighton guy 10 out of 10 times. But that's just mostly anti-57 bus bias that I have. Bad bus. It could go right direct and skip Oak Square. We got no need for Oak Square on this podcast. Now, for all the Oak Square heads going to come at me, my brother lives in Oak Square. It's got a lovely YMCA.
That is a really good YMCA.
Yeah, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Oak Square's lovely. They, for some reason, interviewed Chris Mannix during this game.
Yeah.
Get him off my television. Nobody wants to see Chris Mannix do anything. It's just interview Jay King. If you're just going to interview random guys who kind of cover the team, at least put the kid on there. Put B-Rob on there. Hell, put Corrales on there. No one wants to see Chris Mannix. It's just ridiculous. And I know he used to work for NBC Sports Boston, but he doesn't anymore, so you don't have to put him on television. No more Mannix on my TV.
You know it's a serious beef when you're offering up Corrales. Like, that's serious.
Corrales is at every single game. Corrales covers the team. Corrales, I know, can talk about them. Chris Mannix is just talking about generic draft points about Sam Presti. All of this is just a service of Sam Presti. I don't want to see Chris Mannix. I don't want to see his cool Bomberman jacket. You know what? It's just get Corrales in there. Get Gary Washburn in there. Get Himmelsbach. You know what? Anyone other than Chris Mannix. Mark Daignault has a terrible haircut. And it's just disrespectful to us for us to have to look over every time he pans. And he's just got like this weird kind of like push down thing going on. And I know he's a great coach and he probably doesn't care about that, but just like I know your team has knows a bunch of barbers. Like, every guy in the NBA employs their own barber, and we can't just get a decent cut for Mark Daignault. It's insulting. See, I thought you were going to say something there, and I didn't press the button. Halftime, I don't know if you caught it. They just put out a giant trampoline, and then they put guys with snowboards and skis doing cool ass flips. And Josh B said in chat that he felt like he could do those flips. Josh B, look at me right in the camera. There is no way you could do double flips with a snowboard on or skis. It was a cool performance, and it's just absurd to make the claim that it wasn't.
All right, new live show idea. We go live from a trampoline park with special guest Josh B. I bring a snowboard. I'll finance the snowboard.
We're going to have to sign away a lot of liability, because that just is a recipe for many, many broken body parts, but I'm for it. Yeah. First, we got to get Gambling Grant and Jay King to compete in a shoot-off. That's been brewing since the offseason. Never happened. I blame Jay King for it, for not following through.
I mean, also, just while we're on the topic of basketball competitions not being followed through on, last year for the NBA Finals, while I did enjoy watching the games in Dallas, and that was a good time, 85% of the reason I flew to Dallas was so that you two would do a one-on-one game that we would live stream, and it just didn't happen. And I I don't think there's even a good reason. I think we all mostly forgot about it until the day we were about to leave. I flew with a basketball to Dallas, Texas.
There was supposed to be a media game because there was like a media game in Boston and there was supposed to be a follow-up and Tim McMahon was setting it up. And then like he set it up and it was like, it's 45 minutes outside of Dallas at this local Y. And here's the real issue is that after game 3, all the Celtics reporters had to be like, oh crap, I have to do the what if the Celtics win the championship writing of my articles. And so there wasn't, me and you were just maxing, relaxing, going to the grassy knoll, shooting podcasts, and they were all like writing a bunch of stuff. And so the time to have a one-on-one match kind of evaporated, especially one, 45 minutes outside of town.
Yeah.
I hate the Isaiah Hartenstein push shot. It goes in a lot, but I don't like it. At some point during the game, Brian Scalabrine said Scott Foster wasn't fooled by junk, and that amused me. But I would wonder how Scott Foster, is he amused by junk, and would he like the junk drawer?
Scott, if you're listening now, feel free to comment. Feel free to pop into the chat if you're a Patreon subscriber. We'd love to hear from you. If
you're watching now, or if you're anyone that's watching live on Twitter, go to patreon.com/stillpoddable. Subscribe today. Become a kid, god, or legend. I'll give you a free legend status, Scott Foster. If you want me to slander Chris Paul on here, I'll do it if you sign up for the legend status. He doesn't get fooled by junk, but maybe he likes junk. So welcome aboard, Scott Foster, and everyone watching live right now. Did you see the ad? Maybe it was just on my League Pass for a movie coming out just called Dog Man. It's an animated movie where some weird scientists put the head of a dog on a man, and at one point it feels like we're taking steps forward as a society, but we've already done cat dog, and now we're going to go back to dog man. The whole premise feels a bit sweaty, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Oh, I just looked it up. Did you ever read the Captain Underpants books when you were in middle school or something?
Yeah.
So Dogman is written by the same writer who brought you Captain Underpants, and that doesn't need a film.
No, it doesn't.
Those books don't need films.
At no point did I read the 17 Captain Underpants books and be like, man, I really wish this cinematic universe would take off. But Still Poddable meetup at the Dogman premiere, whatever theater you prefer. That's all I got for junk. Yeah, got anything else for sure? Just talk, please. I'm done talking.
Yeah, I don't have any junk. As I said earlier, I kind of spontaneously decided to go out to the Haven in Jamaica Plain. Shout out to the Haven.
Is it a good soccer bar?
It's a great soccer bar. I went there for watching a ton of the World Cup. It's definitely like my favorite. It was like one of my favorite like spots for the World Cup. They opened early for you. It's also just close to my house. I wasn't like trekking to Cambridge to try and get to one of the soccer bars over there. But it's definitely like a neutral bar. They don't have really like a team that goes there. So like for especially for a big contentious game, this was Liverpool Man United. I was like, I want to be somewhere where if things get real bad, I can just go home. I don't want to be in a place where I have to talk to people about how bad it was. So it was a great neutral bar. Ended up a draw 2-2, but that was on my mind for a lot of the day. That, roller skating, and then this.
Okay, give me a few thoughts on roller skating. Skating, not blading. Sick. So you're on like, are you doing cool tricks?
I was learning some cool tricks. Back to talking about Alston, big Alston podcast, but Thorough.
I'm a big Lower Alston fan.
Yeah. Oh yeah? Yeah. Okay. So Thorough Skate Shop has their warehouse in Packard's Corner, and great spot. And
one of my favorite corners.
My girlfriend and I went over there. I picked up some skates. I got her some skates for Christmas. We went over. They've got a little in their warehouse. They have an indoor skate, like an indoor skate park. So I was looking like shit trying to go on like a half pipe, not knowing what I was doing. But now I'm like, I want to get good enough to look even like a little bit impressive. I don't need to be like shooting videos impressive. I just need to be like, oh yeah, this kid kind of knows what he's doing. Impressive.
You just need to grind one rail and then you get that on film. That'd be sick.
And then never do it again.
Yeah, no, you've nailed that skill. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds fun. I'll press the button for that. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up from us. Not a most fun afternoon, but a solid basketball game occurred. Definitely. Celtics scored 27 points in the second half. Big yikes there. Am I concerned? Not about the team. A little bit about Drew Holiday, but we'll talk about that later. We'll be back the rest of the week because we are a Monday through Friday Celtics podcast. We can get B-Rob and Jay King's reaction to the game and basically the first 3 games of the road trip so far. And then there's big game in Denver on Tuesday night, and we'll be here for you throughout the week. So we appreciate you guys joining in. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you guys for watching this episode of Still Poddable.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics still Poddable.